There was a week I didn't touch a single line of code. And honestly, it was worth it. As programmers, there is always this urge to code all night, complete all the personal project and side project we have, build all the features we are imagining in our head, and then try to ship everything and deliver as fast as we can. I understand this thing because I have been there before. I've been in a situation where I denied myself sleep. I wanted to finish up everything. There was one of this project I was working on, a personal project of mine, which is currently on Play Store, Brainy Beats. I remember very well then that school was on session and I was really working on that project back to back. In the afternoon, I would go to classes. I would not have time to rest, of course. And by the time I come back home in the evening, I would continue coding, and I would not sleep until around 3 or 4 a.m. So I'll end up sleeping only 2 hours, sometimes an hour. If at all I tried, maybe 3 hours of sleep. And that continued for not just 1 week, 2 weeks, or 1 month, for over 3 months. I was doing that consistently. I wanted to build everything to perfection. The ideas were just like, overwhelming in my head. I wanted to just build every of the future that came into mind. But at the end, when my system started to react to me overworking, it was not nice. Our body have a way of coming back at us when we fail to do the right thing. Now, after a long time of not having enough rest, working all the time, day and night, I started to have or to feel the negative implication of what I was doing. And these are some of the things that followed. I was always feeling tired, and I was losing motivation because I was not having enough rest. So even when I am just waking up from sleep, I still feel tired. And when there is no energy, even though you're eating, you've taken energy drink, the motivation is not there, right? The motivation to code is not there. It doesn't stop there. I noticed I was, like snapping on people. Any little thing can just get me upset, and there's no any valid reason to being upset. But I was being upset for no just cause. Along the line, another thing I noticed was even when I try to rest, I still feel that guilt. I'm supposed to be doing something. I should not be resting. So at the end, I ended up not resting as I should be resting in the reason, because even though my body is resting, my mind is not. My mind is at rest. And after everything, I still do not get enough rest. Another funny thing I noticed was that I easily get annoyed at bugs. And funny thing is you cannot program and be void of some of these bugs. So instead of having the motivation to fix these bugs, I ended up getting annoyed, getting frustrated. Now, this issue of burnout, this issue of tiredness after you've put a lot of pressure, it's not as if you're not showing up, right? It's not as if you're not doing anything. It's like you showing up empty. I mean, like you're doing something, but there's no result. You're trying to code, there's no result. You get a bug, and it's taking you longer time to fix the error. There have been situations whereby when people come in group chat and they say they have this problem and that problem, and funny how they slept and wake up the next morning just to see the error or the bug staring at them right in front of their eyes. But simply because they were probably tired or having some business, and they could not spot the bug. So it's the same thing. It was the same experience, right? So that burnout sometimes will not come in form of you being tired and not being able to do anything. You can show up, you can pick the laptop, you can wake up in the night and still not be able to do anything. Now, if you're wondering how you would get to find that if you are experiencing burnout, or if you are at the point of getting into this stage where you will not be able to deliver, or this stage of burnout that we are talking about, here are some few things that you can take note of. Now, number one is constant fatigue. You wake up tired, and you're just waking up, but you're already tired. Now, when you're not giving your body enough rest, it is definitely going to react, and the reaction might not be good, or how it's going to react might not be to the best of your interest. So when you notice you always feel fatigued, even when you're just waking up, then I think you're already reaching your limit. Apart from feeling, fatigue, when you also notice you're losing motivation, right? You have your computer powered on, you have lights, you have internet, but yet the motivation to code is not there. Then I think it is time for you to give yourself some rest before you get to the point where you just be at your breaking limit. Yeah, another thing to look out for is when you start getting annoyed at bugs or errors. Instead of having that motivation to deal with these bugs and these errors, you ended up like being annoyed that these errors are coming up, and you don't even have the energy, you don't have the motivation to work on them. And these are signs that you're already reaching your breakout point. Yeah, and just like me, you could actually be resting and still be feeling guilty. It's still a sign that you really, really need to properly rest, right? You're resting, but your mind is not at rest. You're thinking of all of those projects that you have accumulated and you've kept for yourself, and how you can be able to work and finish up all those projects at once. You're not resting, honestly, because your mind is not at rest. It is racing, so you're not resting. Now, as someone who has been into this kind of situation before, how was I able to go around it, right, and still be able to come back strong? The first step I took to help me recover was to take break. And when I say take break, I mean very, very intentional break. Completely away from my computer. Anything programming, no. Anything reading notes, no. Anything technical, anything logic related, no. I was just taking break. I don't want to do anything that has to do with programming at all, or building any algorithm or anything. I was just taking my rest. That was the first thing I did. Secondly, while making sure I properly took my rest, I also had to cut off the number of side projects I was working on simultaneously. Now, there was no way I could rest with people's projects in my head or on my head. I cannot properly rest if I am resting and clients are all over me asking me to deliver their work. So I had to cut off the number of side projects I work on, as well as even my own personal projects that I was working on, to allow me properly rest and take my mind off anything that has to do with programming within that period of time that I was resting. And during that same period I was resting, I also set that time to go for outing and outdoor activities that do not relate to anything, programming or at all. Just stroll, go out with people, take a walk, just do anything outside of programming. It was part of some of the things I was doing. I go out with friends. Ideally, I am not like a social kind of a person. I know most programmers are like that. But at that period in time, I had to force myself to go out because it was something I needed to help me recover. So I had to do it. So still during that period of resting, I was still getting requests of project that I should work on. But I had to learn how to say no. I am not available. I am not available. After doing all of those above steps, taking rest, cutting the number of side projects I usually do, going out, and of course saying no to some of the project requests that I got, I had to come up with a new routine, a new way of doing things, so that after this whole time taking rest, I would not go back to yesterday. I would not go back to doing the same thing that I was doing that landed me in the situation where I had to take that rest by force. Now, these are some of the things I now do differently. Now, I try as much as I can to set work hours. What I do is I set time. I say, okay, for this particular project, I'm going to work on you for 2 hours, and I'm going to set my timer before I start working on the project. Now, I would make sure, except in very, very critical cases where I have something in production and it's so critical that I need to extend my time. Outside that, I would make sure that if I am working on this project for 2 hours, I would maintain that 2 hours timeline. And if I am going to take a break of 30 minutes or 1 hour or 2 hours within that period, I would make sure I take that break. And when I am taking that break, I would do everything outside of programming. Maybe just go to TikTok, watch some funny videos, or just do something that would not stress my brain at all, something that does not require me to think. I should just rest, right? Nothing stressing me at all. So I have hours, I dedicate hours that I should be working and hours that I should not be working. And of course, because I know how much hours I need to work in a day, except where there are cases where I need to adjust a little, in most times I have a particular time that I should go to sleep. So once it is time, I try as much as I can to cut off whatever I am doing and then go to sleep so I could have enough rest. And as part of my new strategy, I always make sure I enjoy my weekend as much as I can. Once it is Friday evening, yeah, we are out of the coding environment, right? I take my Saturdays to rest a lot. I take my Sundays to rest a lot because I know by Monday we are going back to work. It's going to be back to back again. Apart from working and schooling at the same time is not easy. So there is a lot of work from Monday to Friday that even when you try to take rest, even when you try to sleep early, you will not always get that frequently as much as you want. There is always 1 or 2 days that you have to still do that late night. So once it is weekend, you take your time to compensate for those hours that you had to use during the working days and staying long and doing other activities. Now, also practice work break. Now, work break in the sense that when you're working, try to create some timeline within your working hours that you should rest. Don't just say I want to code for 12 hours straight up, right? You might say, okay, I've coded for 12 hours straight up, for 24 hours straight up, but how is your productivity within that straight up 12 hours and when you're taking breaks? There's always going to be an advantage when you're taking some breaks in between to allow your brain power to recharge back for you to carry on. So within your working hours, set breaks, just like I always set breaks within my working hours as my new strategy. And lastly, as part of my strategy, I try to avoid any form of unnecessary competition or comparison. So there is this hype around tech that tech people have money, tech guys are buying cars, they are buying house, they are married. They are not doing all sorts of things, even though we know very well that some of them are just under the umbrella of tech to carry on their tedious activities. So I try as much as I can to not compare myself with anybody. Okay? There are people below my status that were the same age. There are people that were at the same age that are still above my status. So when I try to complain that my age mates are doing something I'm not doing, I also try as much as I can to remind myself that there are some of my own mates that are not doing what I am doing. So there's no need for me to compete or put myself in a hot seat trying to be like anybody. And these strategies have really helped me a lot. Quick advice. So there is this temptation to feel that when you're working just 2-3 hours, 4-5 hours a day, you're being lazy or stuff like that. You feel intimidated as some people are working 12 hours. No, my dear friend, you're not lazy, right? You're just working in such a way that everything is going to be okay and your body don't have to pay the ultimate price. You don't have to overstretch yourself. You're not lazy, right? You're just working how it should be. Take your time, work, and also give yourself enough rest. Part of it also, rest is actually also productive. So it's not only coding that is productive, coding 12 hours. Rest is also productive because when you have good rest, you will be able to code very well and deliver as much as you can. Finally, as a piece of advice, have hobbies outside of programming. I used to see programmers that when you ask them what is your hobby, they tell you reading programming books or maybe 5 coaching. As hobby, how now? As how? Come on, do something outside of coding. Just get something that is not technical, something that is not going to stress you, right? Do something that is fun. Go play games, go play football, go sing, go dance. Do something outside of coding, okay? That's just my piece of advice. You're not being lazy. Just take your time, work, but make sure you also rest because rest is productive. And then you should also get hobbies outside of all of this technical wahala that we are into. And so for our guys out there that have experienced burnout, let us know how were you able to manage your way out of that situation and come up with a working solution that enables you to come back to your feet and still maintain your productivity. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.